Welcome to the Luxine series. This series will have dead times, not so accurate post production, and a lot of backtracking. This series is meant to be a deep lore analysis and 100% completion of the game. Thanks for your attention. Lasciate ogni speranza o voi che entrate. Hi guys, welcome back to Dante's Hell. I'm Dante or Jack and I'm speeding through the intro, but I shall welcome you to another episode of Flux in Mortus Spatio. Let's get straight into it this time, and we were about to restart the centrifuge. Now the centrifuge in the remake is stunning. 2 levels, absolute futuristic looking stuff. We have metal, we have electricity, friction and sparks. It looks blasting. And we shall read that mission log before we go. Manually ignite the engines. We've got fuel and the centrifuge is online again. Now we need to restart the Ishimura's main engines from the engine room. Hammond, you could at least wait a second, okay? I am not in the best of situations. We can die to this, and yes, it will count as dying in impossible mode. So we will actually just get clobbered by this fact if we do get killed. Even if air finishes, we are absolutely balked. So, for the moment, while I try not to die and I am already panicking, because my health, my god man, thank you. Oh, they put a hair station right where it should be. Let's run, the elevator should be here. That place is empty, I checked. Should we check again? Shall I risk it? Yes, I shall. That was dumb. Why did I do it? It went great. And look at that space. Beautiful. Oh my god. Okay. Bad decisions were taken, but we should be fine. We are not fine. We are not fine. I do not have stasis, and leapers are my least favorite thing to have when not having stasis. Especially if I also have to be preoccupied about suffocating without air. Please. Okay. That went extremely well. Now, save. Again, we cannot save enough while playing in Impossible. And I will have another run in New Game Plus. In Impossible mode, of course. And here, people that played the remake or remember the original very well will know that we are in a pickle since we don't have plasma cutter's ammunition. Let's see what we can do. There is. Classic. So traumatic that Isaac even has a vision of this when it gets onto the Ishimura in Dead Space 2. Come on, cut off, cut off. Oh, it's hard. Oh, it's hard. Oh, you're playing hard to get. It's playing hard to get. It's playing hard to smash. We are in the worst possible. Thank you very much. So, this right here is a tentacle. No surprise about that. You could say, oh, really now, Jack? Is it a tentacle? Would you call that a tentacle? Yes, I will. But Tentacles are massive necromorphs that can be classified as either their own entity or as part of a larger necromorph, such as the Leviathan. Tentacles that are part of larger necromorphs tend to act as their limbs, like arms or legs. Tentacles are either stationary necromorphs that belong to no other creature, or they are part of a bigger necromorph. They appear to be formed from muscle tissue, internal organs, and possibly bone. This area is heavily armored and resistant to damage from any weapon that Isaac may use against it. Located in between the tip and the stem area, a large sac filled with yellow glowing liquid can be seen. Yellow glowing liquid that, as Nicole suggested in the previous episode 8, we know is pure necromorphic tissue that is used to recombine cells of any living thing at a cellular level. This area is not as heavily armored as the rest of a tentacle, and thus is susceptible to damage if a weapon is fired at it. The spot connects the stem and tip areas of a tentacle. The purpose of this liquid-filled sac is unknown. It is clearly maybe the point where the tentacle starts growing. Maybe there was a limb and the tentacle sprouts from there, generating this strange sac of pure necromorph tissue and liquid that we know is present, as Nicole said, in all necromorphs. Tentacles emit loud elephant-like roars when they are far away or when they appear out of nowhere as a scare factor. They can also be heard emitting loud and high-pitched screeching noises. It is unknown how they produce these sounds, as they do not possess any visible mouths or anything else that could produce any animal-like roars. And as much as I would like to say it's produced by the mouths of the heads, you can clearly see the mouths are broken, probably unworking, and some of them fused with this muscle bone tissue, as you can see. And in this remake, it looks a lot more like pure muscle fiber than it did in the original. The first variant of tentacle, because there are necromorph variants that I did not talk about in almost any necromorph talk we had, except for the lurker that I did say can, let's say, a lurker can be generated from babies, but from small animals as well, like rabbits, dogs. The initial concept art of the lurker was a cat, actually. And the tentacles as well have two variants. The drag tentacle, this one, that we just encountered, is usually tends to attack Isaac by launching out of a hole that it has made in an area and grabbing and hold of him. Once it grabs hold of him, it will knock him down onto the ground and proceed to drag him back to where it came from, while periodically slamming him onto the ground in an attempt to damage you. During the Aegis 7 incident, Isaac encounters a total of 3 tentacles. Now, this is 1. When will we get the other 3? Who knows? Well, other 2. We already met 1. So we are missing 2 more tentacle encounters. And the Ishimura, well, we did turn on the centrifuge. Oh, okay. That scared me. Ah, the Reaper. Just beautiful, beautiful beast of a weapon. Oh, let's get out of this decontamination room. No second round in the decontamination chamber, like luckily. And in the centrifuge room, we didn't get too much stuff that gets reading as a priority or anything like that. We just get back down, and we do have the mission to manually ignite the engines. We already read it while we were in the vacuum of space because I'm pretty stupid, but we still give it a read. I'm happy about that. Because as I promised, we will read every possible mission and side mission we can get. Talking about side missions, there is a complete different log section for those.
Storage is unlocked. It'll give you access to the engine chamber.
Okay, finally. The fuel room is open. We can get to the engine station. But before we do anything like that, we need to address our missing ammunition for the plasma cutter. So what I usually like to do is get a full stack of plasma cutter energy and just keep it on the side just in case anything goes to L. And since we are using all the weapons we can find, so we are using the plasma cutter, the Reaper, and everything else, we shall keep the ammunition of the plasma cutter as close to us as we can to try not to consume them, since it's the best weapon we can get.
Entering zero gravity.
And I started to think this is one of Jacob's team. Like, I don't know if it's Denver's or someone else.
Hey, Hammond. I cracked the secure files. DC was here for more than just a mining claim, huh?
What do you mean?
This outbreak started on the colony after the miners dug up some artifacts. Something alien.
That's impossible.
But it would explain why Aegis 7 is meant to be off limits, right? Earth Gov's orders. When the miners found the artifact, they reported hallucinations, paranoia, suicides. But the Ishimura brought this marker on board anyway. Like that was a plan.
Wait. The marker?
Okay, back up. Where's this marker now?
In cargo. All packaged up for delivery.
Again, we hear the talk about the marker. Now we are basically hearing it every episode without escape. And we are getting closer and closer for the episode where we shall just talk about that. It will be the marker episode, or the unitology episode in fact, because the marker episode sadly will be in a lot of time. We still need to have a lot of things talked about and shown before we can just go, yeah, the marker is this. But we will have our unitology talk. And Isaac reacted strangely to Kendra talking about the marker, even though supposedly he already read about it in all the logs we found around the Ishimura, like the marker was this or the marker did that. The marker was named in a lot of documents and logs we found. And here we have a very special room. So, what I didn't say about the tentacles is that usually the areas where tentacles appear are filled with corruption, and often some tentacles can be seen growing through the corruption. They are stationary, however. It is possible that the tentacles that attempt to pull Isaac are part of these corruption hives. And what is corruption? You might also madly ask me. This that you are seeing along the walls, that is currently absorbing this poor engineer, is said corruption. And sadly, again, like for the tentacles, we did have to go directly to the fandom page. For the corruption as well, we need to go directly to the fandom page, because we have no official source for the remake from the EA site. The corruption is one of the first and most pervasive signs of a necromorph outbreak. Like all necromorphs, the corruption is only active in the presence of a marker signal. In Dead Space Salvage, a book, scans show that after the marker was destroyed and the corruption was reduced to an organic sludge due to the absence of a marker signal, what was left was only 70% human DNA. This implies that the corruption will use any available biological matter, or at least any animal tissue, to grow. This makes sense from a practical standpoint. The corruption can spread via otherwise useless food sources, leaving the infected corpses to become combat-oriented necromorphs. According to a log, the corruption resembles a bacteria. It infects, likely dead cells, through osmosis, whereupon it proceeds to reproduce asexually at an incredible rate. This allows it to spread far and fast during an outbreak, even in areas of low available biomass. It has an extremely rapid growth rate, as we heard from the log. They couldn't cut it because it did grow especially and really fast. A member of the Ishimura crew remarked that by the time they had finished sterilizing an area of the corruption, it had already grown back, and in even greater size. This is also demonstrated when Isaac makes his second trip to the Ishimura's bridge in Dead Space. Despite only a few hours having passed, the corruption has engulfed several elevators, rendering them non-functional. And we are talking about the original Dead Space. There are limits to the growth of corruption, however. It doesn't seem to affect living tissue, as Nathan McNeil crawled through corrupted areas on his bare hands several times, and even fell into it face first during his plight on the Ishimura. The corruption, also, is relatively sparse in submerged area, as seen when traversing the Ishimura sewers. The corruption can be seen covering large areas above water, while the flooded canals and drains surprisingly lacks any growth. The corruption's role during an outbreak seems to be one of support. It passively converts the local atmosphere into noxious gas and grows through hallways and ventilation systems, which has the dual effect of blocking potential escape routes and rapidly spreading via a pre-existing network of convenient vent shafts. Additionally, the corruption provides a universal source of ready biomass for a combination, as well as a convenient substrate on which non-mobile necromorph variants can grow. According to Gabe Weller in Dead Space Extraction, a prequel in 2010, the corruption smells like vomit. This is likely a side effect of its aforementioned atmospheric conversion. The fact that Isaac treads carefully and heavily when walking over it would seem to indicate that the growth has a slick surface. This tells us that this corruption is a bio-changing thing. And as you can see, it actually is made of biological stuff. Not only people and living things, because thank God it does not react to living things, but it does indeed react to dead cells, that it proceeds to not only recombine into complete new forms sometimes, but absorbs and uses to grow in some way. Here we have a new weapon, the flamethrower. This is a flamethrower, and the official EA site tells us either as in torch, typically used for precision mining or prospecting on frozen worlds. The nozzle can also spray a wall of flame to clear large patches of ice quickly. It does not operate in the vacuum. Of course, it does not operate in the vacuum because there's no oxygen, and fire does not work without oxygen. That is not a question in any shape, way, or form. Let's read about it, though. Industrial hydrazine torch. Nothing too interesting. It's basically industrial saw, industrial hydrazine torch. Same thing. But we get to the wiki fandom page that says the PFM 100 hydrazine torch flamethrower was originally designed to project a liquid hydrazine flame of 500 to 4,000 degrees Celsius onto the layers of ice that trapped valuable ores within comets. When used against frozen meteors, the flame will cause the solidified water within the meteor's cracks to melt, splitting the rock into pieces without much trouble. The hypergolic fuel canister is clipped to the underside of the torch via a series of metal braces, which when needed can be forcefully ejected from the tool as a makeshift fire grenade. Isaac later repurposes it as a flamethrower capable of incinerating oncoming necromorphs. And what it uses, being a hydrazine torch, it uses the same canister that we used to basically melt in the original and to make a bomb in the remake to get to the morgue in medical. Let's equip it. A short-range industrial torch. It cannot be used in environments without oxygen. Now the secondary fire is a fire wall. And of course it does look absolutely stunning when in confrontation with the original. Of course we have a little joke here about fire and using the blowtorch but play with fire and get burned. Be careful when handling blowtorches, especially if you're using them to blow out creatures like necromorphs and you're throwing stuff completely out of your way. This is a nice little thing added in the remake. But he's pretty dumb of him to just give his back to the necromorph. It was like, yes, I should give him my back to the necromorph that just went around the corner. And here we have one of the dead bodies that basically was absorbed into this corruption. And you can see how the hair around here is completely changed because of the way the corruption spreads and tries to make the place more livable for necromorphs. So, flamethrower fuel is our next reading protagonist, and it says that it's ammunition for the flamethrower. This cheap hydrazine fuel is highly volatile, meaning it is not only very, very inflammable, but it also gets on fire real quick. Audio log.
Engineering log. My last log. Temple reporting. I can't raise anyone on Riglink. I think my team is gone. I found the kinesis module that someone used to bust the centrifuge. Burned out. Who would sabotage the Ishimura at a time like this? I'll report to the bridge, if anyone's left. And then I'm finding Elizabeth and getting us the hell off this ship.
Again, another log from Mr. Jacob Temple, and yet again the final statement that the ship, the Ishimura, was starting to be absolutely devastated by someone. No errors or damages that were made beforehand or anything like that. The ship wasn't just turning to scrap because it's old or because of malfunctions. Someone started to sabotage the entire ship. We do not know who it is, And for now, should I make you guess what happened, what didn't happen? No. But be sure to know, the ship isn't just falling apart. It did get sabotaged by someone that did not want people to either survive or maybe was trying to do something else that we do not know. It did sabotage the centrifuge with a kinesis module, did Jacob say? Peculiar way to sabotage something like that. And a bad idea, some would say. These little orange nodules or cores, I don't know how you want to call them, are basically the newest addition to how to get yourself freed of the corruption. And here we have new form of necromorphs yet again. For our entertainment, we shall go straight to the wiki fandom page and read something about them. Sadly, not much is to say about these little buggers, except for this. These are called swarmers, and they are tiny necromorphs that appear to be composed only of reanimated bits of flesh that attack in large numbers and attempt to latch onto Isaac and overwhelm him with numbers. They are a minor threat, but if 6 or 7 get on Isaac, they drain his health very quickly, often resulting in death within mere seconds, even on lower difficulties, especially if inadequately prepared. Basically, the best suggestion I can give you is be sure to always have a flamethrower or to shoot them with the pulse rifle that has a higher fire rate. So basically the structure is that is the biting head, that little protrusion, and 3 tiny legs. They basically move using those 3 legs, and this is the head that bites. This is the shape of a swarmer. And they usually do not come in the poor man goes full out in this scene. And there's an error here because the rig of this guy should have made the the whistle that you hear when someone dies. And that is classic of rigs because it is used to signal the fact that someone's dead to people near to him. So the rig basically keeps track of the health, and when the health reaches 0 and the person that has the rig equipped dies, the rig basically emits a sound like a flatlining AKG or an heart rate monitor and just does that whistle that you hear a lot, especially when some of them die. Like we heard it not when Chen died, but we heard it when Johnston died on the Kellyan. We had that straight whistle. Finally, we are reaching our destination. And here we have, not too much after meeting another form of Necromorph, yet another form of Necromorph. This time around, we have this bulbous stomach just hanging in front of him. And that is because this is what is called a pregnant Necromorph. And yes, I know, sounds kind of bad, just because it is round, it doesn't mean it's pregnant, but that is the name that was given to them. And why is that? Going to the fandom, yet again, no observations from Dr. Mercer or anyone else. Pregnants are specialized necromorphs. They are named due to the enormous sac that extrudes from their abdominal area, the contents of which are other, smaller forms of necromorphs, which burst forth when the sac is damaged. So, while it is of an necromorph tissue looking substance in it, it does, in fact, between that yellow bile, contain smaller necromorphs. But let's talk about physiognomy of one of these little baggers. The skull's lower jaw has been detached, and what appear to be tentacles now hang from the mouth. Pregnats appear to be created from a single human corpse, albeit one that has been radically mutated. This necromorph sports two massive arms coming out from its back, each ending in a large bone-like site, much larger than those of the slashers, as you can see, while slashers have more, pointy and, fine and slimmer blades. These have big, bulky great swords, basically. And these bone-like sights are used to slash and rend an opponent in the same manner as a slasher does. The host's human arms appear fused into the massive sac that has developed on the torso, so while slashers cave in the stomach area, the pregnants just bulge out. This sac hosts smaller necromorphs inside of it, and what I suggest and theorize is necromorphic tissue, like everything else or every other creature that has a bulbous sac. It basically contains live necromorphic substance that changes what's inside it and keeps it alive at this point. When heavily damaged, pregnants tend to claw open their own abdominal sacs in order to release their spawn in an effort to ensure their victim's demise. Their abdominal sacs usually host swarmers, but sometimes they may carry deadlier payloads of necromorphs, including lurkers, as well as small creatures composed of miscellaneous body parts, identical to those that come from divivers, that we do not talk about yet. In order to accommodate its great weight, a pregnant's legs have become shorter in order to balance the creature by lowering its center of mass, and the overall leg structure has been altered. As a result, although their weight hinders their speed, they can move at a brisk enough pace to outwalk their target when they are determined. We did see it was going pretty fast for its mass. Pregnats, unlike most necromorphs, do not commonly travel in packs. However, they do tend to travel with other necromorphs. Unlike lurkers, pregnats can really wreak havoc when they have slashers or other necromorph forms accompanying them. And that is what the fandom tells us. Basically, this is a form that has a bulbous stomach that contains necromorphic fluid or bile, this famous yellow bile that reformulates DNA at a cellular level, especially dead cells, to then reanimate them, and it keeps necromorphs of smaller size inside it that they use not only if they are heavily damaged to make sure the prey is killed. So if a prey fights back and they know they are about to be killed, they open the sac themselves, killing themselves, but leaving smaller necromorphs to kill their prey. While if you do shoot the sac and damage it, the pregnant stays alive, but the necromorphs inside the sac do come out and make the numbers against you. Another thing they did not talk about is how the pregnant, as you hear the name, you would think that are exclusive for female members of crew. But it is not. In fact, males and females can turn into pregnant necromorphs because the bulge on the stomach isn't exactly given by pregnancy. It's just a way to call them because of the fact that it reminds or resembles a pregnancy. The fact that the abdomen bulges out and that there's sometimes even lurkers, so literal necromorph babies mutated into lurkers that bust out to kill their prey. Engine room is being reached finally, and time is also coming to a halt. We did read quite a bit this time around, and that is also why I decided to move a little bit faster with the intro on this episode, because I did know we would be having a bit of a longer talk about various forms of necromorphs, because I'm trying to change the style and make it more sensed. So what I decided to do is basically not go with the flow while the commentary is still live. I am playing and talking. There is also the new addition I made, that is, since I had to start a New Game Plus, I decided to prepare an episode playing the New Game Plus run and writing down what I had to talk about. And that is making the episodes go a lot smoother, I like to think. Of course, I'm also preparing some other stuff with the New Game Plus run, like the positional locations of what I found, because I didn't know that that was in the game. What they did call a basically marker, what was it, fragment, or was it shard, something like that. And what it does is every single piece of that shard tells you where you found it, and there's a little description that is actually very interesting, because it reminds me of some phrases from the Dead Space novels. And of course, Dead Space novels are a thing, because during that period, I think that was the same period in which 2008, 2005. Now, I don't remember specifically when Halo 2 came out, and I am a big Halo fan, let me tell you that. It was the first game I actually finished by myself at the ripe age of 5. And I had a lot of fun, but during that period, I know there was a book about Halo as well. I don't remember clearly if it was then or after it was a problem, but I remember a book of the Halo series not being from 343 Industries but by Bungie. But anyway, I'm basically going on a tangent at the moment, while I should focus on the Dead Space story. So we are in the engine room, getting ready for starting the engine, or restarting the engine actually. And we should look around before doing anything else. Look for ammunition and stuff like that. Again, I know it can be scary, but maybe people that are very, very, very bad with horror shouldn't do it, because I don't know if you remember the first episode that I did give the name of backtracking, that is backtracking 1 in episode 7. I did get a lot of bad situations in which they almost kicked my ass without even asking for permission. They just did it. Ouch. What in all hell hit me? Okay, so concentration is needed, but talking is needed as well. And while live commentary is one of the other things I did, you can see that speeters, again, I find myself talking about speeters for some reason. There is actually a yellow tinge to the speeters, and my controller is actually going absolutely nuts. What is happening? Hold on. Okay, controller is back online. It works again. Thank God. No leapers, don't do it, please. Let's have a talk about your hysterical behaviors. Shall we? And we are done. That wasn't supposed to happen, because if your controller gives in on you while you're playing a game at this level of difficulty, you're basically done. Especially if you are at a difficulty in which you die, you restart the whole game, and if I restart the whole game, I would need to replicate every choice we made so that the video doesn't get completely bogged. That is bad. For my mind, for my brain and my anxiety, please. I already struggle to think that what I'm bringing forth is good content. I don't need you to give me problems, to make me lose the run and having to make it back from zero. Okay. We're about to restart the engines. Finally. Here we have a blueprint for flamethrower ammunition. And here we have a very cute thing that was in the original as well, and that is a model of the USG Ishimura. Motive Studio, if ever in the history of never do you get your hands on this video, please make that a thing. I want a little Ishimura to look at on my desk while I work. Please, I would be very happy. Thank you. So, let's take a look at a little thing. No, nothing. Okay, my bad. Engines, confirm ignition. Ah, that is bright. Ooh, I can see God on that. Engine are turned on. And our objective just got refreshed. Return to the tram station. But we will read it in the next episode. Because for now, let's get out of here before everyone starts seeing white.
Isaac, you did it. The Ishimura's moving again.
No thanks to whoever sabotaged the fuck out of these engines.
You bought us time to figure it out. Autopilot's taking us into geostationary orbit.
Wait, you're flying us through the planet crack debris?
That's what the asteroid defense system is for.
But the ADS is offline. I've got the system readouts here.
Hammond, the Ishimura's in rough shape. A couple of bad strikes could finish her off.
Shit. Daniels, give me all the data you have. I'll try to adjust course. Isaac, take the train from engineering. Meet me on the bridge. I'll lift the station lockdown. We need to work on this together.
So, another problem arises, sadly. And as we go to save, I will tell you, Agads, yet again, we are at the final moment of an episode. Thank you so very much for watching, and for all of those that are actually watching, because for the first time, we reached 46 views in episode 5. What the hell is that about? Extremely happy that people are appreciating this little project. And as I always say, Agads, I'll see you all again quando torneremo a guardare le stelle. See you in the next episode.